Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Mondays with Mark, although it seems like a Wednesday afternoon, interestingly. I'm really happy to be here this afternoon and to be talking with Teresa Ryan, who will be our first guest and first speaker in this series. So I'm really excited to hear more from Teresa and for us to engage in a meaningful dialogue for the community to get to know me a little bit better, and for the community, for those who don't know Teresa, to get to know her and the important work that she's doing for Crossroads. Welcome, Teresa.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it, and thank you for having me.
Hey, anytime. I'm really glad that we got this series started, and I'm glad we're starting here with you today. There's so many things that we can talk about, and more than likely will. I'm wondering if it makes sense in some ways to begin talking a little bit about, your role and your responsibilities at Crossroads.
Sure. So my primary role is an ABAT teacher, and I work in Essex Road. So I'm working with the students one-on-one or sometimes 2-to-1. And I've been in that position for going on my 4th year now. So I absolutely love it. My students have definitely been my saving grace this year with the pandemic and everything going on. So showing up and seeing their smiles and having those genuine laughs that I get to have during the day have been amazing. Apart from being an ABAT teacher, I am also on the DEI committee that we just formed, which is super exciting, and I'm super proud to be a part of that, and that Crossroads now has that committee. It's really endearing and amazing, and I think that it brings a lot to our school and definitely makes me feel welcomed and happy to be here.
That's really great to hear. I want to hear all about DEI, and for the community to hear, more importantly, for the community to hear more about DEI and all the great things that you, as well as what the committee are doing for the promotion of greater diversity and equity and inclusion for Crossroads. I'm curious though, before we actually delve into DEI, what attracted you initially to Crossroads and Crossroads School in particular?
So about 4 years ago, I had a complete career change. Not many people know this about me, but I used to be a youth minister, and because of different things that have come out, being a part of the LGBT community, I had to make a career change, and I did a year of post-grad service after I graduated from college, and I worked at a school out in Denver, Colorado called Laredin. And that's where I first was exposed to this special needs community, and I ended up falling in love with it. And funny enough, my brother's now fiance used to work at Crossroads.
How about that?
So in June, after I graduated from college, after that year of service, I was looking for a new job, and that was when Crossroads was moving to Marlboro. So it was kind of like everything was falling into place, and I was able to get a recommendation from her, and that started my journey at Crossroads and my journey in ABA and with autism, just in general. And it's been amazing, and it's been awesome to see how everything has laid out literally kind of perfectly. I had one thing, and then life kind of comes, as we've learned this year, and can just kind of sweep the rug after your, like, underneath your feet, and you just gotta have to learn to go with the punches. And Crossroads literally came in at the perfect time. So wow. I couldn't be more blessed, honestly, to be here and to have the support that I've been able to have coming in after that experience, and after having basically my whole life, what I worked for, changed, but then it's changed into something so amazing and beautiful that I've been able to gain. So I'm just very blessed. And again, I really do love being here at Crossroads and just having that community. So, and I'm so blessed that my path did lead me here, and that I've been able to stay here for so long. So
that's phenomenal. I had no idea that you were a youth minister. That's really phenomenal. How did that influence what you currently do now? I'm curious.
So it definitely opened my eyes to a lot of different things that can happen. And then it was kind of on the cusp of after our election that year. So just seeing what had happened to the different communities, I definitely had more of a fire in my heart for activism at that point. Just because it wasn't as abstract anymore. And I think that that's the main thing for me. Was it was like this, I got the concept, but I hadn't been affected directly in such a way yet. So I think experiencing that is what set that fire in my heart to be like, okay, now I fully grasp what is going on and have just been trying to fight for equality across all grounds for the past 4 years. And I plan on continuing to do that. And I think that's why Crossroads is so awesome in having like our DEI committee and being able to be a part of that, to have those conversations, to keep that work moving forward. And it kind of fills in that missing aspect of what I used to have with youth ministry. So it's kind of filling that aspect in, because a lot of the things I do cross over in both fields. It's meeting people where they're at, hearing them, listening to their experiences, walking with them. So I've been able to mirror that in my life at Crossroads, which has been amazing.
That's phenomenal. It sounds like that has really influenced you, professionally, personally, and beyond, which is, those experiences like that, can really lay the foundation, which it sounds like it did for you. That's phenomenal.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely phenomenal. One thing I do know about you, you have a master's degree in counseling psychology, I believe, right? With a emphasis with substance abuse.
Yes, I have an emphasis in substance and counseling abuse, and I have my master's in counseling psychology. And I love psychology. It is one of my favorite things. I love the aspects of being able to kind of navigate why people do the things they do. And I never really knew the science behind it. And Crossroads has given me more of like an analytical science facts for like different behaviors and all that stuff. So I think it's been amazing and cool having the emotions part with psychology, but then also over the past 4 years, I've been able to understand the data part behind it all. So having them both like combined, I think is awesome. And it's really exciting, especially with what's going on. I'm just always like, why is this happening? Like I'm always just re-questioning, like, okay, so like I understand this, but like, why is it so hard for people's minds to change? And then understanding the behaviors behind that and just really breaking it down. So psych has always interested me. I've always been a person to be like, oh, okay, so like, why are we actually doing this? Like, what's going on type thing. And I think it ties in again with I just love getting to know people, and I love hearing their stories and their experiences. So, but psych has definitely formed a lot of where I go in my life and how I interact with people.
Yeah, as you know, you're preaching to the choir here, right?
Yep.
Given my own background as a psychologist, so I completely understand and echo everything you said there about your master's degree. That's really phenomenal.
Yeah.
How does it feel at times? We're surrounded, at least in the day school, by a lot of individuals with master's degrees like yourself, but whose focus is in terms of being a BCBA. How does that work for you? How does that fit? Is there any sense of compatibility, discompatibility? Curious.
I love it. So I've been able to have some really interesting conversations with different people, and just also hearing what they're learning in their classes. I think there is a beautiful way that they mirror each other. And I think moving forward, or I could see further down in the future, once more research is done and all that, you actually will see more of a mirroring. I think it also depends though on the functioning level of the student or the client. There's just some things that I know and I've learned more about that, like we can't break down the emotions or what's like the leading factor behind different things depending on our students functioning level, which is completely fine because that's again just how they are. But then the interesting part about ABA is you're able to come up with creative ideas to still understand that in more of an analytical way than it is more of like let's explore your emotions type of way. So I think they go really well hand in hand. We have gotten into some discussions about like, well, I think it is more the emotions, and I think we do need to like look behind it. But again, just the staff that I'm surrounded with is just so well educated, and everyone is able to like have those conversations, and really it doesn't like go anywhere, like it doesn't blow up in a bad way or anything like that. It's just like it's that intellectual educational challenge that you have for each other, but it also keeps you in check with what your modality is and how you learn, and keeps you on your toes. And I'm definitely researching more ways and trying to understand how I can incorporate both of them. But it definitely is, it's interesting. It's a very interesting dynamic and leads to many interesting conversations that I really enjoy. So how is it for you being like kind of fully immersed in the ABA field now?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I sort of feel the same way, I think, in many ways. As I've said to many folks before, I know enough ABA to be dangerous, and I'm only joking. My ABA roots, although I'm not a board certified behavior analyst, my ABA roots go back to actually having been trained by Lobos's original group.
Oh,
So
wow.
I feel like there's some direct connection there.
Mm-hmm.
Nonetheless, I've never been a practicing BCBA nor really ever a practicing clinician. But I think the approaches are very compatible. I think, as you pointed out, absolutely. I think that, for me, is trying to see that individual in a larger context, right? So when you bring up feelings and things like that, that's just a larger context in which we need to understand and understand people from.
Yeah.
So I think they're very compatible. I agree with you, 100%.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Tell us, and I'm going to shift gears here a little bit, if that's okay with you. And I'd like to hear more about DEI and your efforts and your involvement. But before you do that, I would like to say thank you. I want to thank you for not only your role in terms of the DEI committee, but you stuck your neck out. You really stuck your neck out for us, right? After the most recent set of civil unrest, you reached out to me directly, which I really, really appreciated. That took a lot, and again, I appreciate that. And we've had a couple discussions about that, but I'd like other people, to know a little bit more about that, and obviously about your role with DEI.
Yeah, for sure. So just, I guess what I want to say is that it's definitely going to be a next rough couple weeks. But the one thing that I will say is that I wanted to thank you because you made me feel comfortable enough, especially as a white male, that I personally am working to like understand and really understand just like, okay, not this whole population doesn't believe this way, but it's definitely it took me like 5 hours to write that email because I was just like, I don't know if I want to do this. I should do this. I need to do this. And it was like kind of that going back and forth. But in our previous conversations, I was like, no, like Mark, I trust him and I feel like I can trust him, and I trust Crossroads because like I said, like I've been here for 4 years now. So like I know that Crossroads has my back for the most part. And now that we have the DEI, it's going to be even more so. But my biggest thing was the reason why I sent that is because I was talking to one of my friends, and she was talking about how school for her students is their safe place. And I was reflecting on that. And I was like, growing up, like school is where you spend the most time, and that's where you want to be the safest. And then when we transition to adulthood, like what is that next place for you. And for me, I was like, that's my work. My work is where I spend 40 hours a week. That's where Crossroads is where I spend most of my time. Most of my new friends are here because, again, I had to restart my life 4 years ago. So the support system that I found here has honestly been amazing and gave me the comfort to stick my neck out, which is what I did, basically calling out like, hey guys, I work at a 90% white company. And now I'm starting to, everything else was like starting to creep in, and it felt like the walls were like closing in. So I was like, what can I control and what can I do? And I was like, I spend most of my time at Crossroads. Like, I'm going to make sure that for me, Crossroads is literally like my haven. And so that's why I stuck my neck out, and that's why we have the DEI committee. And the people on the committee are amazing. We have representation from all across the board, which I think is awesome. And one of the first things we did was started watching this series, Whiteness in the Workforce, and basically broke down white supremacy in the workforce culture. And it was one of the things that everyone told me when this first started was, you don't need to watch the videos because you understand white supremacy and all that stuff. Like, I already understood it because I experienced it. But one of the things I wanted to do was like, I want to watch this. And I was also adopted, so I have a white family. So I understand white privilege very, very well, because in certain situations when I'm with my family, I get it, I have it. But then it's the times when I'm not with my family and I'm by myself or I'm out with my friends, it's like I don't have them. So then I get all the other attacks about everything else. So that was like my biggest thing. And I always say this, is that I want to know what everyone else is learning so that I can still talk to them and understand, like, this is what you just watched. I just watched the same thing. So now let's have that open dialect and open conversation. And in the committee meetings that we have, which have been, for the most part, every Thursday, we meet for an hour, and working through that and just seeing the different levels also gave me a more sense of like, okay, like Crossroads isn't like as far off as I initially either thought that we were or whatsoever. It's just like, we're there, we've got work to do, and the DEI committee is doing that. We came up with a survey so that we can get demographics about Crossroads and really put that out for everyone to see, to be like, yo, we understand that we are a white company and we are working on that, and it's also keeping us accountable. And that's going to be my part, is making sure that in this predominantly white company that I work for, like, I'm going to keep you guys accountable because I care, and I care about you, and I care about Crossroads, and I care about my students, and I care about my staff. So the one thing I can control is literally like, this is my safe space. This is where I want to be the safest for our students and for the rest of our staff, because it's scary out there. And I mean, I love showing up at work. Yes, we have our moments where it gets stressful and it gets hard, and kids, do kid things, and but at the end of the day, I'm surrounded by people who I know, and through the work that I've been doing and seeing the answers coming in with the survey and all that stuff, like, really do stand behind me, and that gives me a bunch of comfort right now. And I want to continue that on because, again, everything's going to be in the long haul for a little bit, for the next couple months. And the one thing I can do is I can keep showing up at work. And my cousin said it perfectly. She was like, we're going to keep fighting because neither person right now is really going to fight for us. So, like, no matter what, we're going to keep fighting. But there's things that won't change. And the things that won't change are, my students are going to show up. I'm going to get tons of laughter from them when we do silly things and have our moments, or my staff in my classroom is going to show up. So my friends are always going to be here. My support system will be here. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And I'm thankful for the DEI committee. We have some great initiatives going to come out. We're talking about different like work task forces to like look at different aspects. So as a school, we have a lot of curriculum. So working at the curriculum to make sure that like the pecs that we're using are we using a representation of everyone that's in the population, and different things when we do like anti-bullying lessons, like are we putting in enough visuals to help them comprehend what is going on. Just different things like that. Through our policies, we're going to have a group that maybe looks at the policies just to make sure like, hey, do all of these line up? So it's gonna be a long time. One of the things we learned is that change happens. We thought when we first got together as the DEI committee that we were like, yeah, like let's get this done. Like we're gonna be great in like a year. And then we watched like the first couple modules in that series, and they're like, yeah, love the enthusiasm, but it's gonna take like 5 to 7 years, which is understandable because you go back to the psych part of it, which I always go back to, is I'm like, and the ABA part is there's so many things that people have had like learned. So we have to unlearn those behaviors and unlearn those thought processes to make change happen. So that's going to take time. And, but again, that DEI committee and Crossroads, I have a lot of hope that we're in this for the long haul and that no one's going to stop fighting. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's phenomenal, Teresa. Phenomenal perspective. Again, I can't thank you enough for your contribution. The one thing I wonder about sometimes is, you feel any particular sense of pressure, given that you are a person of color and, with the DEI, and I'm curious about that.
There definitely is the sense of pressure. I think for me, it's a unique sense of pressure because, again, growing up in the family I did, which again, I'm so blessed to have had growing up in that family. My parents are amazing. They have supported me 100%. The rest of my family has, but it comes with, I have a lot of white friends. When I first, when all this like really first started, I was reflecting and I'm like, wow, again, because of dynamics, I have a small group of like friends that aren't white, but for the majority of it, it's a lot of white friends. So I've been doing a lot of education over the past even 4 years, but definitely over the past like couple months. And there's definitely a pressure, I feel like, being such like the person I am at Crossroads. It's like you see me in the hallway, I'm smiling, I'm talking to everyone, and it's kind of like I've always been told that like I'm a strong person and like I can handle things and all that stuff. So there is pressure because I don't want to crack, but at the same time, I need to be able to have those spaces that, hey, if I do crack, it's a safe place for me to do that. And again, I'm never gonna stop fighting. I've said that a million times and I'll stand by that. Like, no matter how tired I get, I know that everyone supports me, and I'm starting to feel more that people aren't going to be let down if I take a minute to kind of breathe and all that stuff. It's kind of, I feel like the pressure is lifting a little bit, especially with how the admin team at Crossroads is now getting super involved, and the DEI committee and everyone else can actually see the work that we're doing. I feel like the pressure has relieved a little bit from what it was, but at first there was definitely a lot of pressure, I felt like, because I was the staff that was like, I'm gonna put my neck out on the line and I'm gonna call you guys out, and whatever happens, happens, but like I need this for myself, and I know that my other employees of color at my job like also need this, and I'm going to do that work for them. So there was, back to the original question, there was pressure, and I do feel it every now and then, but there's a lot less of it now.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, that was a concern of mine. The job that you have, the role that you have is challenging enough.
Mm-hmm.
And especially under this COVID lens that we're all under, right?
Yeah.
So to feel additional, feel burdensome and pressured by, additional responsibilities. Just wanted to make sure that you're okay with that. And, well, definitely it's our responsibility, right, as an organization to keep an eye out for you in that regard, and,
Yeah.
for us to listen as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely feel like you guys have heard me. I mean, there have been times where I went to the DAC committee and I was just like, hey, I need a break today. And they were like, 100% fine. Like, we'll fill you in, like, take your rest. So, and I have had great supervisors who have checked in and have thanked me for posting what I post on social media. Just making things known and really educating people. So I definitely do feel the support. Which is very nice because I do feel like I can relax, and I know that I have people here who will cover my back. And it's really nice because my friends here have translated not just as like my work friends, but they're my real life friends. So I know that my solid friends that I have here are my solid friends that I now have out there, which is super helpful, and it's amazing, and I'm very blessed. So
You strike me as a very, upbeat, optimistic individual, which, I truly appreciate in general, but especially in terms of my role here at Crossroads. So I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you, Mark. I try my best. I do my best.
Do you have any questions for me? Anything, specifically or generally, or?
So one thing that I have had is just because I don't think a lot of people have been able to meet you, but what's been like the one experience so far that has really stuck out to you with the students of Crossroads as you see them being in the hallways? Like, was there a certain interaction where you're just like, oh, everything fits, like I'm in the right place. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Did you ever, have you had that moment yet?
I think so. I think I have. I think that moment came, I think it was my second or maybe third week here. Now, remember, I've been here under quote unquote normal conditions for about 5 weeks. And then, we all know what happened, what ensued, I should say. But I think that moment came was when I had the opportunity to really start to go into classrooms and meet students and spend time with them. Across the board. And I think that was a seminal event for me in terms of understanding more personally what the mission is.
I love it.
That was really, really great. I wish we had more opportunities these days for that.
Yeah.
But hopefully soon that will change and we'll be in position, or at least I will be in position to be able to do more of that.
I love that. That's awesome. I guess another question I had too is, again, this is just keeping Crossroads accountable, but what would you say is your vision for where Crossroads will be in regards to equality and everything going on?
Great question. It's interesting you bring that up, and it's rather timely, right? We had a town hall scheduled a couple of weeks back. It got canceled for reasons that have to do with, my role with the board of directors of the organization. And, but we're back on target for those town halls. In fact, we have one scheduled this Friday for a lot of day school staff. And suffice it is to say, sort of my vision, which is very consistent with why I got hired as president and CEO, was really try to continue and potentially expand upon the great work the day school has done over the years, its prominent role in the community, and to really build other services to help the autism community. Building other services that are very compatible with the day school, early intervention services, turning 22 adult services. So services that are very compatible with our mission, with the autism community. So that's what I see generally as where we're hopefully headed in the future, and hopefully in the near future.
Awesome. I love that. And I look forward to that all. I work with the older kids. So I miss them when they go off when they're 22. So I'm excited to hear that you have some ideas for that, and I'm really looking forward to EI and hearing your ideas about early intervention, because I think that that's the most important part in how to curb everything. So I'm super excited to hear that, and I'm really glad you're our new CEO.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
I'm very, again, I can't stop repeating how blessed I am, especially, so today's also my birthday. So, um, it's,
Happy belated.
thank you. So it's great being here, and, definitely having that vision and that future that we can all hold on to and look forward to, which is amazing. And thank you for your hard work.
And what's nice, not to belabor this, but what's nice is, you saying that that's a vision that fits with your perspective. I think having it be a shared vision is really, really important. So, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Um, I want to thank you for this opportunity
I want to
to
thank
get to
you.
know you better.
Yeah,
I thought it was fun. I thought it was stimulating. It was a great conversation. I
I
hope
love
you felt the
this.
same way.
I did. This has been awesome. I've honestly been looking forward to this since Kelly reached out to me. She was just like, "Hey, would you want to do this?" And I'm just like, "Yes, 100%, 1,000% down." So I really appreciate it. This was great, and if you ever want to do it again, you know where I am.
Absolutely. And ditto. And ditto. Sounds great, Teresa.
Thank you,
Hey,
Mark.
thank you, and have a good remainder of your day.
Thank you. You too.